Today I'm grabbing 3 different castle factions to make my alliance army. After watching some YouTube videos about medieval figures and how customizable they were, I decided to put something together myself. The medieval blacksmith house that came out with the new Falcons got me down this rabbit hole. Then I find out about the 2013 era, and the King's Knights became my favorite medieval figures. So naturally, I started to go a little crazy on those as well. Lastly, I added what it used to be my favorite faction, the Crown Knights with the dwarves. And with all these figures, I ended up putting a nice little army together. But more than quantity, I want to focus on quality. So I'm going to take my time and I will try to customize these characters as much as possible. Beginning of course with these Black Falcons. Each section is going to have 3 or 4 main characters, with troops that will go along with them. When putting them together, I try to keep a few things in mind. Consistency on colors, but also on the design of the figures. I wanted the armors and the accessories to match in one way or another. My Falcon army is more diverse when we look at the weapons and armors they use. I have a section with the Black Falcons, and some others that look a little bit more Viking-like. But together, they all look really good nonetheless. I have tried to stick to a darker tone for this faction. And this is why I wanted my main champions to have a little bit more color. First, we have our master with the katana and a young warrior as his trainee. They are followed by his armored knight with his bucket head soldiers. All of these are sticking to the dark theme. And lastly, we have some Viking representation because I love their gear. My 4 main characters are all using different weapons: hammer, katana, knight sword, and a long spear/axe. Regardless, the uniform really helped with the consistency, something that became a bigger challenge with one of the other factions. Each army is going to be carrying their flags with colors to represent their faction, but they are also all sharing one color that represents their alliance. Let me know in the comments if you notice which color is it. But I feel like this little detail of the flag will stand out more once we have the 3 factions together. So far, I just love how it helps to complete the look of each individual army as well. Moving on, we have the Crown Army next. These are from the Castle Fantasy era, and these figures have really cool torso prints. The best thing about this army and what really makes it unique is the dwarves that fight along the humans. And I'm pretty sure that these are allies on the actual LEGO theme. Some of the torso prints for the dwarves had the Crown Knight's uniform, so I decided to only add the dwarves that have those specific designs. The colors of these armors are naturally more diverse, so it was a little bit trickier to have everything matching as it did with the Falcons. But even though we see a few more colors, they still look like they belong together. The 3 champions from these factions came out looking fantastic. The Crown Knight was inspired by the heavy armor knights that we see on Elden Ring and games like that, and the dwarves needed to look kitted out just like a World of Warcraft character. Since I ended up adding a human king, I wanted one of the dwarves to also look royal. After all, this army is composed of the alliance between these 2 races, which means that we can have 2 kings and 2 champions inside of this faction. I feel like I can still make some of these figures to make them look more uniform, but fixing those small details usually takes a lot of trial and error, so I might just have them upgraded on my next video. Also, I'm waiting on a few other figures with cool accessories that might help me clean up those last details in this particular faction. I have a few ideas to take this army to the next level, but I will have to make another video for that. Which is why, if you're enjoying this content, you should subscribe to see more of what I have. There's currently over 200 videos and shorts combined that you can watch on my channel if you're having fun with this one. But getting that out of the way, we can move on to the last faction. This is by far my most completed one, and hopefully the other 2 will look like this one soon. Basically, I created 2 main characters, but each one of them has 2 knights to back them up. So it kinda looks like I have 6 main characters on this army. The matching accessories like the shields and the round capes ended up helping a lot. Also, I used most of my shoulder armor pieces on these guys since they fit so well. Unlike the Crown Knights, all these figures have the same color arms, and that really helps them to look more uniform, and it really ties them together color-wise. Overall, it was pretty easy to make this army match even if they have 3 variations of torso prints. And speaking of torso prints, they go very well with the helmets and the spears that I had. So basically the whole army is sticking to the 3-color rule, and it looks fantastic. The lion emblem for this team is the best in my opinion, so I'm glad I have plenty of armors and shields to display. This faction reminds me a lot of the characters from Warcraft. I used to play Warcraft 3 all the time when I was younger, and I still do every now and then. And this is a big reason why I try to have as many shoulder pieces for these knights as possible. After all, the characters from Warcraft wear huge heavy armors and weapons, and to be honest, these kitted knights have become some of my favorite figures in my collection. Finally, here I have my three factions combined into what I'm calling the Alliance Army. I have been enjoying the castle theme a lot recently, and especially being able to mess around with the figures to create cool characters. I have been watching a lot of LEGO Castle content, and I realized that with the collection that I have, I could put together a lot of awesome figures, and I'm glad that I went down this rabbit hole. The next thing that I want to do is make a few locations for each one of the factions, and of course I'm already working on the 4th army as well. I have 38 figures here, and like I mentioned in the beginning, rather than growing on numbers, I want to focus on quality. So I will continue to upgrade these figures as I get more accessories for them. I want to know if there's a particular faction or even a knight that caught your attention. I'm hoping that by putting this together and sharing it, somebody gets an idea to implement to their collection. I used to have a hard time taking figures apart, not because I wanted them to maintain their value, but I sort of like to follow the rules. And for some reason, to me it felt wrong to mix and match figures that were relevant and that I personally enjoyed. Of course, I didn't care about mixing figures that I had multiples of, or figures that simply weren't as cool. But I have started to get over that feeling, and now I'm just enjoying creating new reference and original characters for my display. After all, I feel like this is what LEGO is all about. Of course, I have a lot of figures that I want to keep as they are, but I also want to be able to indulge the ideas that I get, even if it requires putting apart an expensive or rare figure in order to fulfill my vision. As I mentioned, I will continue upgrading my medieval army, and I will keep making updates. I'm also working on more Star Wars content, but I want the channel to be about the hobby and what I enjoy rather than focusing on one single theme. But well, on that note, this is all I have for you today. I'm Beyond LEGO. Peace out.